Have you ever stopped to wonder what really happens after 80? Not just the birthdays, the slower steps, or the extra pills on the counter. I mean the quiet, invisible truths no one warns you about. The moments that come not with fanfare, but with a hush. When the world changes around you and within you, but the only thing louder than the silence is the question, why didn't anyone tell me? You see, crossing into your 80s isn't just aging. It's a different life entirely, a life filled with unseen shifts, both painful and profound. A life that demands more emotional strength than physical stamina. And if you're not ready for it, it can shake you. Today, we're walking through 5 difficult truths about life after 80, not to scare you, not to discourage you, but to prepare you. Because clarity is power. And when you know what's coming, you can face it with strength instead of shock. So take a deep breath. This journey might feel heavy at times, but it's also filled with light. And by the end of it, you may just find a new way to walk through this final chapter, with dignity, with pride, and with your head held high. 1. The quiet disappearance of your social circle. It doesn't happen all at once. It begins in whispers. A friend cancels lunch, a neighbor moves away, a cousin stops calling as often. And then one day, you look around, and the room is quieter. The phone rings less. The calendar, once full, starts to look bare. Let me tell you about a man named Harold. Harold turned 83 last spring. He'd lived in the same house for 45 years, knew every face on his street, and played poker every Thursday with 3 friends. But over the last 2 years, things began to change. One friend passed away. Another moved to live with his daughter in another state. The third, well, he stopped driving at night and eventually stopped coming altogether. One morning, Harold sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair across from him. It's not that people don't care, he told me. It's just they fade. This is one of the hardest truths. You begin to outlive your social world. Not by choice, just by time. And unless you build new connections, even now, you can start to feel more like a ghost in your own story than a living, breathing part of it. But here's the powerful part. Loneliness is real, yes, but connection is still possible. It just looks different now. A phone call you initiate. A community group you try, even if it feels awkward at first. A handwritten letter to an old friend. You won't always get the same energy back, but the act of reaching out, that's what keeps your heart warm. 2. A body that no longer recovers. It compensates in your 50s and 60s. You could bounce back. A few days of rest, and you were back on your feet. But after 80, recovery doesn't work the same way. What used to be a speed bump becomes a hill, and sometimes that hill becomes a mountain. I knew a woman named Louise. At 82, she was sharp, loved gardening, and took pride in doing things herself. But one afternoon, while pruning a rose bush, she slipped. It wasn't a serious injury, a bruised hip, nothing broken. But the weeks that followed weren't just about healing, they were about adjusting. She lost strength, confidence. Her morning routine slowed. She started avoiding the backyard altogether. She told me, the fall didn't break me, the stillness afterward did. That's the thing about aging. It's not just about pain, it's about unpredictability. You can do everything right, eat well, stay active, follow the doctor's advice, and still find yourself winded after a walk you used to breeze through. But this isn't weakness, it's transition. The truth is, your body starts to ask for more respect. It doesn't want to bounce. It wants balance, not speed, but steadiness. And when you honor that, when you move intentionally, rest wisely, and listen instead of push, you discover a surprising truth. Even a slower body can still carry a very strong spirit. 3. The subtle slide into dependence. There's no announcement, no flashing sign that says, "You need help now." It starts with the little things. You avoid reaching for the top shelf. You hesitate before climbing stairs in the dark. You ask someone to read the fine print on a form you used to breeze through, and before you know it, you start feeling something deeper, a discomfort, not from the act of needing help, but from what it means. You've spent decades being the rock, the provider, the one others leaned on. So when roles reverse, it can feel like identity is slipping through your fingers. Take Eleanor. She was 85, proud, lived alone, and still insisted on cooking full meals every day. But her hands had begun to shake. Not badly, but enough. Her daughter offered to prep meals, even hired someone to help around the house. Eleanor said no, every time, until one day she dropped a hot pot and burned her hand. That was the turning point. "It wasn't the pain that got me," she said. "It was realizing that pride had become a liability." After 80, accepting help isn't giving up. It's choosing wisely. You don't protect your independence by doing everything yourself. You protect it by knowing your limits and building support that extends your abilities, not shrinks them. A grab bar in the shower, a friend who drives you to the doctor, a son who checks in on you once a week. These are not weaknesses. They're safeguards. They're investments in the future you. And sometimes the bravest thing you can say is, "I could use a hand." 4. A world that stops noticing. This is one of the more painful shifts, not physical but social. You walk into a store, and the cashier talks past you. You go to the doctor, and they speak to your adult child like you're not there. You try to share a thought in a conversation, and it's brushed aside like background noise. You feel invisible. There was a man I met named Douglas, a former attorney, father of 5, lover of jazz and literature. At 87, he still had stories to tell, but fewer people willing to listen. He once said to me, "I spent my life building things, arguments, careers, memories, and now I feel like wallpaper in my own life." The world doesn't mean harm, it's just moving fast. And when it sees slow walkers, wrinkled skin, and white hair, it assumes less value. But the truth is, your presence matters more now than ever. And you can choose to be visible again, not by shouting, but by showing up. Ask questions, offer your insight, speak when it's uncomfortable, let your voice fill the room again. Because the world doesn't always remember the power of age, but when you speak, they'll feel it. 5. Regret and the redefinition of purpose. This one's the heaviest. After 80, the noise fades, the schedule's open, and in that silence, memories start to speak, not just the sweet ones, but the ones with ache, the missed opportunities, the strained relationships, the chances you didn't take. It's tempting to live there, to turn reflection into regret. But regret isn't your enemy. Stagnation is. Let me tell you about Stanley. He was 88, a retired teacher, deeply respected, but after retirement, he felt empty. "No one needs me anymore," he said. But that wasn't true. He just needed a new way to feel needed. So he began mentoring kids at a local community center just once a week, telling stories, listening, laughing. A year later, he said something I'll never forget. Purpose didn't leave me. I just stopped looking for it. At 80, 85, 90, purpose changes shape. It's not about productivity anymore. It's about presence, kindness, connection, grace. And the most powerful question you can ask each morning is, how can I bring light today, even just a little? Because that light, it's never too late to share it. Reaching your 80s is not the closing of a book. It's the start of a different kind of chapter. A slower one, yes, a quieter one maybe, but also one filled with incredible depth. So which truth hit you the hardest today? The shrinking social circle, the changing body, the creeping dependence, the feeling of being unseen, or that quiet ache that only regret can bring? Whatever it was, I hope you feel less alone, because you're not. And the beauty of this moment in your life, you still get to choose. You can choose courage over isolation, connection over silence, grace over pride, and purpose over regret. Because this isn't the end of the story. It's the part where your presence, your patience, your perspective becomes your legacy. With that said, thanks for watching. And until next time,